anytime there's an attack on Donald Trump, JD Vance finds one of the massive markers that he can always point to and lie about to say they're attacking Trump because Trump is a peaceful dove. So cute, my little Hasanito. Let's do the Jake Tapper.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do the Jake Tapper shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So let me ask you, obviously, Trump's former Chief of Staff, General John Kelly,
Sure.
was alarmed, he says, by what he heard when Trump said he wanted to use the National Guard or the Pentagon to go after.
I'm all for hearing y'all sigh, but calling Trump a Nazi is a stretch. Why is it a stretch? Why? Why is it a stretch? His goal is to create militarized border camps, okay? Concentration camps. That's what he said. He falsely claims over and over again that there are 20 million undocumented citizens, undocumented migrants living on U.S. soil, and that he's going to deport every single one of them, okay? That's straight Nazi shit. Mass deportation is straight Nazi shit. Like, I look at your chat, I say one thing and disagrees respectfully. Look at what your chat is saying to me. Stop crying about what the chat is saying to you. You're talking to me directly now, okay? Don't fucking rush to be like, oh, I'm the victim here. Don't do that shit. Answer my question. Donald Trump has said that there are enemies within, that he is going to use the military and the police force to, not a victim. Okay, why are you fucking behaving like one right now? This is victim shit. Hyper focus on my words now, okay? Stop trying to move the conversation into a different direction. Stop trying to steer this conversation. Answer the question. Donald Trump has said that there are enemies within and that he will use the National Guard, the police, and the military against them, okay? Does that not strike you as a little bit concerning in terms of rhetoric? Yeah. Donald Trump falsely lies about undocumented immigrants in this country. Donald Trump also says that undocumented immigrants in this country are eating cats and dogs. He says Haitians are doing that. They're not doing that. He's lying about that. But that he also says they're killing hundreds of thousands of Americans every year. That's also a lie. That's completely false. The real number in the fiscal year of 2024 was 26. Okay? Is he talking about people here that are illegally? Yes. There's still people, though, don't you think? They're still just human beings with lives, dreams, that want the same thing that you want. To put a roof over their heads, to have food on their table, to have clothes on their back. Once again, I agree, but come here without breaking the law. Okay. Great fucking counter. So you also recognize that the difference between an undocumented migrant and a documented migrant is just paperwork. So why is it that JD Vance and Donald Trump have simultaneously claimed that the documented migrants on U.S. soil, like the Haitians that he's pointing to in Springfield, Ohio, that are here on temporary protected status, which is the paperwork necessary, which has prior authorization and a background check that comes along with it, why are they calling them illegal aliens when they're not here illegally? When they are here literally legally. TPS is legal paperwork necessary. Why are they saying that they are also illegal aliens and that they are going to deport them? If that is the case, if they're here legally, then I don't agree with that. Okay. But doesn't that concern you? Once again, does that not concern you? He says that these JD Vance and Donald Trump both have falsely claimed that immigrants here with temporary protected status that have the legal paperwork necessary to be able to live, exist, and also work on U.S. soil are actually still illegal aliens. Okay? He wants to revoke their legal status. And he's also simultaneously lying about the crimes that they're committing. This is about Trump being a Nazi. No one asked if you don't agree. This is about Trump being a Nazi. Exactly. If it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Donald Trump is straight up a fascist, okay? He is. I do not care if he genuinely ideologically is committed to a fascist project, but it doesn't change the dynamic for me at all because he is actively promoting fascist rhetoric. His policies are identical to fascist policies. That's it. He has also used famous fascist quotes over and over again.
The enemy within, Americans with whom he disagrees, including the Pelosi's, Adam Schiff. And then he gave an interview. He said that Trump, quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, that he is, quote, certainly an authoritarian, admires people who are dictators. You've called him a disgruntled former employee. But why shouldn't Americans out there listen to somebody who worked closely with Trump, worked with him longer than you've worked with him, retired 4-star Marine general, served his country honorably, who is conservative, who says he agrees with Trump on most policies, but is worried about this aspect of Trump?
So let me say two things in response. So first of all, a lot of what John Kelly...
Fascism is paleogenetic ultranationalism. It's an in-group, out-group dynamic through some intractable, unchangeable quality. That's what fascism is. It's that's the most basic way to describe it. Okay, Google is also very helpful if you would like to figure out what fascism is. It's ironic that Jake Tapper is having this interview with a person who also called Trump a Nazi. So there's that too. Donald Trump's own fucking vice presidential candidate, side by side, not that many years ago, called him a fucking Nazi. Okay? He called him a fascist too.
Pretty much all of what John Kelly accuses Donald Trump of saying. There were other people in the room, Mike Pence's former chief
He called him America's Hitler, to be exact.
of staff, for example, who've explicitly said Donald Trump never said those things, right? So one, on
Mike
the
Pence, the
specific
guy
comments,
who's not going to support Trump because
Mike Pence's former chief of staff said that Donald Trump didn't say those things, right? So that's number one. Number two, I actually think there's an interesting conversation here to have, Jake, which is why does John Kelly not support Donald Trump? It's about policy. It's actually not about personality.
He says he agrees with Trump on most policy.
No.
He agrees with Trump on most policy.
the
He disagrees with Trump on how Trump views his role and his and the fascism and the authoritarianism.
I don't buy that, Jake. I don't buy that, because if you actually look at John Kelly, at folks like Liz Cheney, the fundamental disagreement they have with Donald Trump is, even though they say that they're conservative, they're conservative in the sense that they want America to get involved in a ton of ridiculous military conflicts. They want America to police the world, and Donald Trump wasn't.
John
And if
Kelly
you
lost
look
a
at the
son in
policy-
Afghanistan. Why are you saying that he, like, I've never heard John Kelly say whether he
Jake, come on.
supports of Iraq or Afghanistan.
And I honor his son's sacrifice, and I honor his family's sacrifice. That doesn't mean he's not wrong about policy.
But what specifically are you talking about? What has he said that...
Is your argument that a person who lost a son in Afghanistan can't be wrong about public policy?
I'm asking
then
you...
why bring that up? Let's talk about public policy,
because you were
I've
asking...
never criticized his service or his son's
I brought it up because you're acting as if he is pro-war, and I've never heard him say whether or not he supported the war in Afghanistan or the war in Iraq. He was a general carrying out orders.
Because I know John Kelly's worldview, and I know the people who have attacked Donald Trump the most vociferously on foreign policy. They'll say, well, he's a dictator, when what they really mean is they won't listen. Donald Trump wouldn't listen to the leadership of the military when they wanted him to start ridiculous conflicts. That is a consistent theme. And I think that there's a big, big thing going on in American politics. It's a very interesting theme in American foreign policy, where a lot of former members of the Pentagon bureaucracy, a lot of old neoconservatives, they have a fundamental difference with Donald Trump on the question of peace and war. I believe Donald Trump is the candidate of peace. I think the record supports that. But the reason these guys go after him so vociferously, I don't think that it's about his personality, Jake. I think that it's about they don't like that Donald Trump said...
Didn't he kill another country's general, like in... Who was it? Soleimani or whatever? Who the hell was it?
No, when a lot of them wanted to start a ridiculous war.
Well, first, you're ascribing
Where did he conduct that strike? In Iran?
worldviews...
Yeah.
I think based on gut. I can't really tell where you're coming from on it. There's no evidence.
Based on people that I've talked to in the Trump administration,
John
about
Bolton,
what John Kelly wanted to do, John Bolton, Liz Cheney, these people have a consistent...
John Kelly was at the Department of Homeland Security, and then he was chief of staff. He was not weighing in. I don't even know what you're talking about. But let me ask you something about John Kelly specifically, because you said the other day, quote, I guarantee John Kelly talked to somebody on Kamala Harris's campaign beforehand, before he did this interview. Now, I've spoken with people in John Kelly's circle, and I've spoken with people in the
so
Kamala
good.
Harris campaign.
I can't even.
They say
pause
there's
it.
been
It's
no
so good.
communication the entire time. So where did that come from?
Oh, I'm highly skeptical of that, Jake. You know the way that these attacks work. You know the way that these people are often vetted by a campaign.
So you made it up.
Before something goes out there. No, I said that the American media.
I love when they remember what their jobs are as journalists, like especially Jake Tapper is like one of the worst offenders of theirs. Like he never has this kind of they only remember what their job is in terms of like being adversarial to people in positions of power at the very last moment. Like the smoke that Jay has towards JD Vance here, I only see when he's like shitting on Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Bernie Sanders, and the like. You know what I mean? I wish he would do this more frequently for people in positions of power.
And the American Democratic Party apparatus works a certain way. If it comes out that John Kelly never even spoke with a person in the Kamala Harris
I'm telling you
orbit,
that.
then I'm happy. You're telling me that based on secondhand conversations with John Kelly. And it's interesting. We've now spent, Jake, 3 minutes talking about John Kelly. If it is true that he never spoke with anyone in Kamala Harris's orbit,
Who the
I'm
fuck
happy.
else is he supposed to ask?
Bro, this is Kaya, place. This is the longest way to say fake news.
Yeah.
Like this is JD Vance's like best role, I think, is to basically, because he's like a TED Talk guy, because he comes from like a liberal circuit. Kaya, please. That it's basically like his job here is to make Trumpian rhetoric liberal coded. Like that's what his job is. And he normally has a better he normally has a better time doing this. Like when he did the New York Times interview that made me fucking so mad that you didn't listen to a while back.
How do you know I didn't listen to that?
Because I told you to listen to it and I know you didn't. And I asked you if you listened to it and you said no.
I was probably on an interview with MSNBC or something.
Oh yeah, no, totally. You're too busy.
Yeah.
Damn, it's not here yet. Anyway,
Happy to apologize.
but I'm glad that Jake is not letting him get away with it this time.
to John Kelly for misstating how he delivered this news to the Atlantic magazine. But let's talk about who did he deliver this news to? To Jeffrey Goldberg, a guy who lied the United States into the Iraq War, which led to the deaths of millions of innocent Arabs and thousands of innocent Americans. You don't go to that guy if you don't have a particular ideological motive. I think that's what's going on. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to say that I'm wrong.
I think it's interesting that you think that a magazine writer lied the American people into war.
Well, he encouraged it. He wrote stories that
Okay, this is the part that I do despise because JD Vance, I can't believe I'm saying this, is right. I just hate that, like, he's right on this issue, and it's like very fucking. Sorry, my food's here. He's right on this issue, and it's really fucking annoying that like, Jake Tapper's like, oh, I find it weird that you're saying that this person lied to the American public. Like they did, okay, they did, and it's disgusting that like, it's disgusting that he is trying to present all of this as like, oh, these guys just want to do more wars and we're the anti-war ticket and that's why they're coming after us with these like lies. Like you can say that about John Kelly as well, by the way. He's not wrong about John Kelly being a fucking warmongering piece of shit too. Two things can be the same, correct at the same time. John Kelly is a warmongering piece of shit, okay? And that Goldberg is not exactly a great person either. Having said that, their coverage probably stands true. Like I have no reason to believe that John Kelly's lying when he says that like Donald Trump has said that I want my generals to be like Adolf Hitler's generals. It's also stupid enough to be so Trumpian because, Adolf Hitler's generals famously, one, lost, two, tried to kill him in the process multiple times. So it's like a very funny, stupid thing for Donald Trump to hold on to be like, I want them to be like Adolf Hitler's generals, not knowing what the fucking truth is.
that were dishonest.
He wrote a story about the gassing of the Kurds in I forget if it was the Atlantic or the New Yorker, but I'm actually referring to John Kelly talking to the New York Times.
He wrote stories, by the way, where he took what intelligence officials in the American Pentagon bureaucracy said and wrote it as the gospel truth. And this highlights the entire point that I'm making about Trump's foreign policy, is this is a guy who wants to use American troops sparingly. He wants peace through strength. It's why his foreign policy was so successful during his first term. It's all the same people who were wrong about Iraq. They were wrong about the quagmire in Afghanistan. They were wrong about Syria. They were wrong about everything. And now they're coming after Donald Trump because he actually has a realistic and cautious...
Syria? The Republican position on Syria is that they didn't do Iraq and Afghanistan. The Republican position on Afghanistan and Iraq is that Wait, Kaya, place. What are you doing? This is new shit. She's behaving brand new today. It's kind of annoying.
I love that that emoji is awesome. That
Which one?
The
the place one?
Yeah, that's awesome.
She's acting brand new. Do they forget a Republican put us all in all three of those places? That too. But like post-Trump 2016, Republicans are now anti-Iraq war. They're anti-Afghanistan war, as a matter of fact. The issue, however, is that, like, in terms of Syria, their argument for Syria was the exact opposite. That they were saying Obama wasn't like enforcing a red line and wasn't bombing Syria hard enough. That's the problem here. So it doesn't even fucking make sense.
Just foreign policy.
I'm talking about people who worked for Donald Trump in his first administration. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about not just John Kelly, but Mark Milley, who was the Trump-appointed chairman of the Joint Chiefs of
Who
Staff.
disobeyed Trump's direct orders on troop redeployments in Syria.
And I'm talking about the guy that had your job.
A massive violation of his constitutional oath, by the way.
I'm talking about the guy that had your job before Donald Trump's supportive crowd wanted to hang him, Vice President Mike Pence, who said, as you know, that Trump put himself before the Constitution. I'm talking about General Mattis, also Secretary of Defense in Trump's administration. I'm talking about Mark Esper, the Secretary of Defense, who told me that Trump does have fascistic tendencies. John Bolton, H.R. McMaster, Alyssa Farah-Griffin.
Okay, Jake,
these are Trump administration
officials. Listen to every Trump administration official? You know, one reason why Kamala Harris doesn't have as many people criticizing her is because she doesn't fire people who fail. That's why we haven't had a real audit of the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, is because Kamala Harris protects failures in government. Donald Trump fires them. And I'd much rather have the president who fires people who screw up. Now, Jake, no, this is an important point. Kamala Harris.
You did not fire Mike Pence.
Kamala Harris.
He did not fire
the president.
Mark Milley.
Kamala Harris.
He did not fire John.
He fired a lot of those people, Jake, and he did because they weren't doing their job. But this is the thing, Jake. We've now spent 5 minutes talking about people in Donald Trump's staff
who think he's not fit for office.
He fired.
Who think he's not fit for office.
Oh, they didn't think he was unfit for office until they had a falling out with him because he fired them. And we're not talking about the public policy.
Well,
Can we talk about how Americans can't afford groceries.
We're actually
Can we talk about the fact that Americans can't afford the cost of housing?
Can we talk
about the fact that a lot of people out there in Erie, Pennsylvania, they're the ones who suffer and die when people like Mark Esper and Mark Milley don't obey the commander-in-chief's orders.
We're talking about Donald Trump and what he says.
Yes.
And Donald Trump says...
And you'd much rather talk about what Donald Trump allegedly said than what Donald Trump did in office.
What he did in
office, Jake,
what he said publicly,
1.5%
he wants to use the military to go after the enemy within, which is the American people.
He did not say that, Jake.
The enemy within?
He said that he was going to send the military after the American people. Show me the quote where he said
he was going to. He said the enemy within.
He said far left lunatics. He's talking about
the
people
Pelosi's
rioting
and Schiff.
He's talking about people rioting after the election. I think
the Pelosi's were rioting after the election.
He said
Adam Schiff was rioting after the election.
You're using two separate phrases. He said about using the military that far-left lunatics, people who riot in the wake of an election, people who burn down American cities in the summer of 2020, yes, we should have a federal law enforcement
This is what
response.
he said to Joe Rogan on Friday. The enemy within that he wants the military to go after.
No, this is
the enemy within, a bigger problem than Kim Jong-un.
The second part.
We have people that are really bad people that I really think want to make this country unsuccessful. That's who the enemy within.
And did he say that he wants to use the military against those people?
He here's the game. Use the military to go after the enemy within.
Here's the game that you're playing.
Oh my
he
God.
said
I'm not playing a game.
No. Can I answer the question, please? He said that he wanted to use the military to go after far left lunatics who are rioting, and he also called them the enemy within. He separately, in a totally different context, in a totally different conversation, said that Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff were threats to this country.
We're the enemy within.
We're
the enemy within. He said they were the enemy.
So every time he uses the exact same phrase, we assume that he uses.
I don't know. I don't throw around the term of enemy within to talk about using the military against joining American people.
Oh my God, the
vice president, but you won't let me answer the question. I'm telling you that Donald Trump has said, and I agree with him, that we should use the U.S. military to go after
Americans.
People who riot, who burn down our cities.
And this was what John Kelly was.
This
was what John Kelly was alarmed by. The idea of using the U.S. military to go after Americans. That's what he said.
Donald Trump never said Americans writ large. You keep on putting words in his mouth and my
Are they
mouth.
or are they not Americans?
Far left people who commit acts of violence, who riot. And
now you're doing
care.
a very.
How?
Yeah, by the way, are you out? Under no circumstance is it appropriate to fucking sick the United States military on American citizens, dog. What the fuck are you saying? No matter that you disagree with them. Oh man, well, these are bad American citizens. I just disagree with them, so I think we should be able to kill them with the military is an insane argument. And optically speaking, he can try to liberalize his speech here, but what he's saying is fascist nonsense.
Narrow definition of what he said, which is not what he said. That's not what he said. But let me ask you the bigger point.
He did say that, Jake. He did. He said that he wanted to use the U.S. military. Let me clarify.
To go after far left lunatics, yes. And then he also added
people who are rioting and looting.
And
he
never said.
He
added
Schiff.
And then he added the Pelosi's.
He
added people that don't want the country to succeed.
He said that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi he used in a separate context in a separate conversation. And what you're doing is you're smashing two totally different conversations.
Fox asked him about this last week. And he didn't take issue with it. He said the enemy within is the biggest threat to this country.
But did he say the enemy within that he's going to use the military against Nancy Pelosi? Donald Trump offered Nancy Pelosi the National Guard on January the 6th, and according to private emails, she rejected it.
So let's talk about things that he wants to do that are feeding into this concern that people like John Kelly and General Mattis and General Milley have. He said on Friday, Special Counsel Jack Smith should get thrown out of the country. He's threatened to arrest election officials who cheated. We know that he believes a lot of people cheated that did not.
He's about to be like, well, Jack Kelly, or what was it? Jack Smith. Well, Jack Smith lives in the Netherlands. That's what he means. Like, he just has an answer for everything. It's so fucking smarmy and annoying. I hate him so much.
Not cheat.
Yes, if you violate the law, you should be arrested. Yes.
No one disagrees with that, but he's talking
Apparently you do, based on the way you're asking the question.
Based on the fact that he's accused people that didn't break the law of breaking the law when it comes to the election. And if you want to revisit that, I'm happy to. But Liz Cheney said should be put before a war tribunal. None of that sounds fascist to you at all?
No, of course it doesn't.
Putting Liz Cheney before a military tribunal?
First of all, I don't buy into the premise of what you're saying, Jake, because I just on things that I know that he said, on things that I know that he said, you're imputing things, you're taking words out of context, you're taking two separate conversations and pretending that they were made at the exact same time. So I'm rejecting the premise of your question. I frankly don't believe what you're saying about Donald Trump's words. If you'd like to put up a clip and actually put him in context, I think the American people would realize that Donald Trump is a hell of a lot more reasonable than the people like Liz Cheney who would like to lie us into war.
People have to come out and say he didn't mean that. Constantly. Over and over again. When it gets, he didn't mean that. He actually meant this.
That's when it gets to the most indefensible aspects of it. Then they say, "Oh, you can't trust Donald Trump." I mean, he says a lot of stuff.
Now, Jake, we also have to remember. I mean, step back a little bit. Well, ask yourself a basic question about network integrity. You guys talked about the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it. The FBI was investigating it, and so we recovered them.
And so you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it again and again. A viewer of your network would have believed that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin conspired in 2016.
No.
That was totally and preposterously false.
No.
Well, that's
what you just said is false. We covered an FBI investigation. I don't know why you want to talk about the FBI investigation.
You covered it in a way that gave credence to anonymous sources' accusations. You did it yourself. Your network did it, Jake. But again, can we talk about the issues that Americans care most about?
I'm talking about things that Donald Trump has said.
Yes.
If you have an issue with whether or not he's talking about the economy enough, that's between you and your running mate. I'm talking about things he has said this week.
Every single rally that he does, he talks about how he wants to unleash American energy so we can lower the cost of groceries. He talks about the fact that housing has become unaffordable. He talks about the wide open border, Jake. Kamala Harris and her allies, you know, it's interesting. Kamala Harris and her media allies, and I would put CNN in this category. You guys seem to care.
I'll tell you that. They wouldn't.
Well, they should watch your network more because you guys seem to care more about Donald Trump's past than the future of the American people. We're running this campaign on making the American dream.
I'm specifically asking about how Donald Trump is going to be president in the future should he win, and then we're being told
he's going to pursue economic policies that lower the cost of groceries and make life more affordable again. He talks about it every single day on the campaign trail, and so do I. What you're talking about is an anonymously sourced story, or one guy
nothing anonymously sourced,
or who one guy who is a disgruntled employee.
I told you,
five other people pushed back against him and said that what he said was dishonest. So why don't we talk about the policy that's affecting American citizens and not what Donald Trump allegedly said, according to one guy who's pissed off because he got fired by Donald Trump?
I didn't bring up any of the things that he said. He said I didn't bring up.
Brought up John Kelly.
It's just this amorphous. I know many of them. It's just this amorphous group of people. But they're smart and they're vicious.
Trump, we need to defeat our opponents. They're the enemy within. Supporters, he means illegal immigration and woke stuff. Trump, I want to be clear that Democrats, former staff, the media, and half of America are enemies we must put down. Supporters, he means taxes.
I know many of them. It's just this amorphous group of people.
This is from the Madison Square Garden rally from last night.
But they're smart and they're vicious. And we have to defeat them. And when I say the enemy from within, the other side goes crazy, becomes a sound. Oh, how can he say? No, they've done very bad things to this country. They are indeed the enemy from within. But this is who we're fighting. I know many of them. It's just this amorphous group of people.
Oh, my God.
He's like, I mean Nancy Pelosi.
They try to correct me.
He's like, I mean Nancy Pelosi. We must use the military on Nancy Pelosi. We must use the military on Adam Shit. I'm a fascist. I love Adolf Hitler. And then JD Vance is like, actually, when he said he loves Adolf Hitler, he was actually talking about a different Adolf Hitler. It's like, Glenn Garrett was one of the local pollsters that nailed the 2022 election in Michigan. He had Whitmer up by 9 at the same time other pollsters blinked and started showing her within the MOE or down, margin of error or down. Glenn Garrett's last poll of Michigan shows Harris at 46.7%, Trump at 43.7%.
Not gonna say anything here. However, in the early vote of all the swing states, Harris seems to be performing pretty well in Michigan, even relative to 2020 at this point in the campaign. I'm just stating facts. You can call out the copo you want. I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything. It means something. It doesn't mean that she's going to win, but I'm just saying objectively what is true. You disagree because, look, you're not... Go look into it then and come back to me. And it is surprising given what we've, it is surprising to me.
Yeah, because
But
of
that's
the
the case.
Gaza, policy.
It is. Yeah, it is surprising to me. It's not based on polls.
It's
either.
not. It's not that surprising, dude. Donald Trump is running such a bad campaign. Like this motherfucker's own advisors. I'm almost certain of it, and I can tell you why. Because he's a fucking motor mouth. Okay, he yaps way too much, and he openly will say at his rallies, "They tell me to talk about the economy, but I'm here to talk about the migrants. I'm here to tell you about the migrants and the trans people instead."
Yeah.
I think that's it. His advisors are like, "Mr. President, please just talk about the economy. It's your strongest issue. Please, Mr. President, talk about the economy." He's like, "No, I will talk about the transnational migrants."
You know why he does that is because he knows his base loves him when he doesn't do what people tell him to do.
I know, but then
That's
he
what his-
openly admits.
Well, I know it's bad, but that's what he loves. He loves the crowd, and he loves to juice up the crowd, and the crowd loves when he goes off script and he goes after and does everything that nobody wants him to do. They fucking love that shit, and he knows it, and he can't help himself. He wants to do everything that they tell him not to do.
The problem is that reveals, to me at least, that there are at least somewhat smart individuals in his corner that are telling him to stick to issues that actually help.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't stop himself because he's a bad fucking campaigner.
Well,
He is in many ways running to the opposite direction in terms of like good things that he was doing in 2016, presenting himself as a moderate, versus now where he's just like so deeply unhinged. And also on top of that, he did January 6th and Roe v. Wade. It's just bad. It's just really, really bad campaigning.
Oh, it's terrible. But there's nothing more than a live crowd loves is that when you defy the big guy that's in charge, the no fun guy, right? Like, I mean, I've done nothing like what Trump has done in terms of live audiences. But like when you're on stage in front of people and you're like, they tell us we need to shut the show down, but we're going to keep going. And what are they going to do to stop us? You know, the live audiences love that. So this idea that Trump is like middle finger to the guy telling him what to do, people fucking love it. And he knows it. And it's not a good campaign strategy, but he just can't help himself.
That's what I'm saying.
Kelly, and that I just described.
I brought
him
up John
perfectly.
Kelly's view of Donald Trump. I didn't bring up John Kelly talking about what Donald Trump said about Hitler's generals. I didn't bring that up. I talked about John Kelly's view of Trump based on something Trump has been saying in the last week. So that's what I asked about.
So John Kelly makes accusations that are rejected by 5 people.
Again, you're talking about something I didn't bring up.
I think that maybe implicates his overall judgment. And I think the fact that he has a worldview that's so oppositional to peace and prosperity suggests that he's not an honest arbiter here. This is not a guy, John Kelly.
Yeah. Peace and prosperity by fucking sicking the U.S. military on Americans. I love the peace and prosperity party.
Going to brag to Jeffrey Goldberg, who is interested in the American truth or is interested in telling an honest account of Donald Trump. He's a guy with an axe to grind because Donald Trump fired him and disagreed with him on policy.
So all those 10 people, including the former vice president, Mike Pence, all of these people have this horribly damaged worldview, and they're all just going after Donald Trump because they want to send people into war? That's really your argument?
Absolutely.
It's not like these are conservative.
Absolutely, that's my
These
argument.
are not
Jake,
conservative
all of
Republicans.
These people,
these aren't
all
conservative
of these
Republicans
people,
who are
Jake,
concerned about Donald Trump.
All of
They're
these,
not. That's
all
not
of
right.
All of these people, Jake, they came into office thinking that they could control Donald Trump. That when he said he wanted peace in the
Mike
world,
Pence thought he could control Donald
yes,
Trump?
he did. And when he found out that
Really?
when he found out that he couldn't, they all turned on Donald Trump, and a lot of them got fired. And
Okay.
we're running, and we're trying to staff the government with people who are going to govern according to principles of peace and.
I'm not going to lie to you. When you said Jake Tapper cooked them, I thought it was going to go in a different direction. I think J.D. Vance has gotten slimier and slimier. But like this type of conversation plays well to his base. Like he didn't show emotion at all. And also on top of that, something that you have to notice. Anytime there's an attack on Donald Trump, J.D. Vance finds one of the massive markers that he can always point to and lie about, to say they're attacking Trump because Trump is a peaceful dove. Now, you and I already know that that's not the case. But this, like this will play super well to not only the base, but even to independents. Because he is so good at being this sociopathic worm that he can just turn around and say, what are you talking about? John Kelly, never seen a war he doesn't like. He wants to do permanent war. And that's the reason why he's coming after Trump like this, because Trump is a peaceful dove is a perfect way to reframe the conversation calmly towards something that you want to present Trump as. It would be like if Donald Trump was running on... It would be like if Donald Trump was running on, like, I don't know, protecting Social Security, right? And anytime someone said something about him, JD Vance flipped the conversation back to, this is because, I don't know, Kamala Harris has tried to undermine Social Security, and that's the reason why they're lying about him, because they don't want Donald Trump to protect Social Security. So I think he did a pretty decent job at deflecting, even though Jake Tapper was on the attack the entire time. He does this all the fucking time, by the way. He's gotten a lot better at this. From our, like, the way that we view it, of course we're going to think JD Vance sucks. I think JD Vance sucks. I hate him. He's disgusting, and he's lying the entire time. But I try to always look at this stuff from the perspective of, like, someone who is maybe, like, lib-coded, but kind of conservative. They would be like, well, you know, in spite of all the attacks that Jake Tapper put forward, it does seem like JD Vance, like, holds himself well. And I know that there are people in this chat who have parents who would watch this interview, and basically say that. Yeah. This is Pete Buttigieg. Yes, he is. This is Pete Buttigieg, but for the Republican Party.
Prosperity.
Let me ask you.
They're pissed off about it.
Let me ask you, because we're being told that we're over.
Yeah. One more question, because you have to go to this rally.
You are running to be vice president of the United States.
Of course.
And there is a 50-50 chance, maybe better, I don't know, that you're going to succeed. Are you running to be vice president of the United States, or are you running to be vice president of the red states? Because if you win, and there's a decent chance you will, you're going to be vice president of childless cat ladies. You're going to be vice president of legal Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio. You're going to be their vice president too. Are you running to do that?
Jake, of course I'm running to be the vice president of all Americans. I'm running because I want people to be able to afford a good life in this country. You know how I grew up. You know that I grew up in a family where things were often tough. I want, whether you're in a blue state or a red state, whether you're going to vote for Trump or you're going to vote for Harris, I want you to be able to have a good life in this country.
I didn't actually watch the whole interview.
My dad thinks there's an immigrant problem, but my mom is literally an immigrant from Brazil. Bro, there's people in this chat whose parents are undocumented migrants. And they have, like, immediate family members who are pro-Trump specifically because they want to do mass deportations. There's a chatter here that told me their dad is an undocumented migrant, and if he had the capacity to vote, he would vote for Donald Trump. Like, that's insane. 1 year ago? Oh my God. There's no way this was just 1 year ago. That's what she looked like 1 year ago? Look at this.
God damn. Holy shit. That's got to be Photoshop.
Little Bubba. Little baby.
Oh my God, is that Santa? Are you bringing him out this year too?
Nah, Ethnic Santa's gone. Remember
what happened?
I sold him on an auction.
You did?
Yeah, we did a...
Oh, the charity.
We did a charity auction.
The charity.
Yeah, we did it for Sea Dog. I might get a new Ethnic Santa though. It's tradition. What?
Never mind. It's not. Wait. Never mind.
What are you laughing at?
No, what's next?
Oh yeah, auction at the IDF.
what's not going to happen with the broken leadership in Washington, D.C. Let me give you a statistic, Jake, because here is what the leadership of people like Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi, and yes, Mike Pence, over 30 years in this country has led to. A person with a bachelor's degree lives 7 years longer than a person without a bachelor's degree. There are a lot of people who have gotten rich and powerful off of American decline. Some of them have had R's next to their name. Some of them have had D's next to their name. And the first person who I believe is really putting the interests of the American people first is Donald J. Trump. So yes, we're going to be the president and the vice president for all people.
Billionaire.
The only way to do that is to reject
You can't
the failed
become a billionaire
consensus.
without stepping on
All right.
somebody
Thanks,
or
Jake.
a lot of people.
I think there's nothing crazier than lying like this. Like, Donald Trump is the funniest person to say this about. He's just like so obviously not interested in anyone but himself. And it's crazy that like this is the message that they go forward with, and people fucking eat it up. They say this guy who was born with a fucking silver spoon that shits on a goddamn golden toilet, that has bankrupted his father's businesses 6 times, is like a smart, sound businessman who cares about the American working class. Like, there's just, it's the exact opposite of reality. But to me, the way I see it, if you can get people to believe that, like, I mean, yeah, people say he's Christian, that he like promotes the Christian faith. Like, there is nothing, it's just so stupid. He is so openly antagonistic to and in direct contradiction of like everything that they present him as. I don't know. It's so stupid. I always try to get my dad to admit that people maybe just don't like Donald Trump and that he's maybe just objectively bad. There's always some other thing, like a personal grievance, or that they actually, or that they're the bad ones themselves, because it all flows from the belief that Trump is de facto good and perfectly likable in a vacuum without lying media, for example. It's wild how blind Trump supporters are to genuine critique. The things that they promote Trump on, it's not like they promote Trump on like boundaries that you could maybe argue on. They're not like Donald Trump's buildings are pretty, like, or some shit like that. You know what I mean? He has a great eye for aesthetics or some shit. It's always like things that he is directly the opposite of every day of his life. When people say Trump understands the working class, I'm like, how are you saying this? Like, how? How can you say that? It just doesn't make any fucking sense. It's like one of those things about Donald Trump that is like immediately discredited with 3 seconds of thinking. My dad votes for Trump because he's kind of racist. He's a simpler man.
hiện giờ太陽風又風東風味，是做太陽是毛不都飛，看看到我們的職業版美。